All right. So had a request to explain maybe a little bit further what's going on here with the rig for leg day and kind of where to go from that. Um, so what I did was I went ahead and brought up the demo project that was finished, and I'm just going to explain kind of going through the process maybe a little bit more. I'm going to go ahead and load up the script. Right there. Let's source it. And with that loaded, what I can do is actually add this to a brand new shelf. So I'm just going to actually just go to my rating shelf. And the command for this is rig 101 wire controllers, which is actually put here in a comment. Middle mouse drag that up to there. And now whenever I click this button, it'll show up. So as long as you save your project, it should always show up on your shelf. Okay. First thing I need is I need to make a root controller. I'm going to go ahead and bring that up. Hold down V, snap it over. Scale it up. I'm going to rotate it. So maybe about this way. And that's where my root controller is going to be. Now in the video, I believe where I left off was I have a root joint, I have tail joints, and I think I don't have any spine joints, but spine joints are the same thing as the tail joints. They're just going to go up through the body and then terminate right here with a control joint right here at the base of the neck. So these are exactly the same way that we made the other joints in here. Okay, so just make sure you follow that. Make sure you also do follow what I'm talking about doing retracings, so we don't have any rotations on the joints. It's okay to have translations. We do not want to have rotations. Okay, and if you do have that, then we're going to need to probably retrace that joint chain. All right. Keep in mind also that my root joint is not connected directly to my hip joints. There's an intermediary groin joint right here. Okay. All right. So we're going to take that. Take that root. Let's give it a ding. You notice it also has transformations on it. The character's name is Blinky. I guess I named him Blinky at some point in the past. And I'm going to go ahead and go to modify freeze transformations. And also take this command right here. And if I want to, put it up there. And that will be my freeze transformations command. We'll see that. And then this one right here, we can name that. There you go. Anytime I click this, it'll freeze it. Okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate. And I'm just going to snap it forward. Control D. By the way, if you hear that in the background, that's my son. It is currently 7:30 in the morning, and he has been awake since 5, 6, something like that. Okay. So these are going to be my spine controllers. All right. And then what we need to do is appropriately size these for the body. Something like that. Maybe a little bit narrower. Okay. Yeah, grab all of these. Run that freeze transformations. Boom, we're good. This one's going to be, name this spine base. Spine mid controller. Spine upper controller. And then we're going to come to the neck here. So this neck is made exactly the same way, the way we did the tentacle. The only difference here is that the neck ribbon has been deformed a little bit. That was created through grabbing the control vertices and so the ribbon spine, the ribbon here was deformed into shape. It's not perfectly straight. This was made just by reshaping it using the control vertices. You can even use soft select if you want to in order to move them around. But they do, it does need to be formed to fit the neck because the neck is not perfectly straight. There's a little bit of a curve to it. So make sure you do pay attention. But otherwise, follicle joints are here. They're not under the joint chain of any other joints. They are only skinned to the ribbon. But you will notice that the control joints here, neck base and neck top control, are actually indeed in the same joint chain as the spine. So you'll see that right here. If I open up my outliner, you'll see central spine 3, and then neck base control is directly underneath it, going into neck joint top control. Okay. Now in the handout, I stated that I wanted at least a mid control joint as well. So make sure when you're building this, you add a new mid control joint in here. Okay. And then as well as a controller. Okay, so why don't we go ahead and start adding those controllers in here. So I'm going to go ahead and take, let's do a circle. And I need to actually get it right up onto here. Now, I'm going to go and introduce you to a concept called offset group, because that's going to be really useful for for creating controllers, they're kind of offset from the normal planes, so X, Y, and Z. So like if you need a controller that is kind of, let's just say for example, I need a controller that is on the neck, but the normal axes doesn't really make a lot of sense. So if I have a controller like this, that doesn't really fit the direction of the neck's going in this direction. And if I do it this direction, that doesn't really make a lot of sense either. Because again, the neck is going in this direction. So what I want to be able to do is to kind of put this controller shaped like that, and then freeze my transformations. And so you can see we have zeroed out translations and rotations. But the problem is that when you freeze it, it also resets the orientation to world space. So that's not great. That means I can't really rotate the circle the way it needs to be rotated. So what do? What's a guy to do? So we have what's called offset groups, okay? An offset group basically is just grouping a controller to itself and then using that group to control or rotate the controller around in such a way where the controller doesn't actually take any transformations. So if I go ahead and freeze transformations right now with this actually set into world space, I'm going to go and hold in, do Control G, and it'll group it. Okay? So we're going to call this neck, base, con, offset, group. And again, I don't actually have the controller selected. I have a group selected that the controller is a child of. I'm going to call this neck, base, offset, neck, base, con. That's what it is called. Neck, base, con, offset group. Okay. Now, if I take, so this is zeroed out, right? This controller is zeroed out. If I take this group, I'm going to go to modify, center pivot, and then if I rotate it to match the orientation of the neck, just like that. Actually, maybe we'll even do it like a little bit like that. You'll see we got a rotation on here, but that's on the offset group. If I go to the neck base con, it's all zeros. So that's what an offset group will do for us. We can offset the movement and the translation, or transformation, I should say, onto the group. It basically takes the dirty information and it keeps the controller clean. So what we'll do is go ahead and take this, and I'm going to hit Control D. I'm going to move it up to the top of the head. And then that's going to be my top of the head joint, or top of the neck controller. And you do the same thing for your mid controller as well. So I have that, again, I have that neck base con offset. The neck base con is, actually I might call it neck top con. Okay. So again, this one is in the position I want. However, we want to make sure that these guys will actually follow each other. So there'll be a very special way we actually have to set that up. So we'll get to that in a second, once we start kind of plugging everything in. So I'm going to go and do a head controller here. So I'm going to get a cube. And if I position the cube right here on this joint, which would be the head joint, it's kind of not really in the right position, to be honest. I think I'd rather have the head controller right about there. But I do want the pivot point to be on this joint. So when I rotate it, it rotates from that position. Okay. So what I can do is hold down D as in David, V as in Victor. and I can just snap it back over there. So that whenever I rotate this guy around, it'll rotate from that position. All right, so that's good. All right, go ahead and freeze this transformation. It's going to be head controller. And then we'll go ahead and do I'm going to do another circle. I'm going to snap it up to the eye look joint. And this is going to be what the eyeball is going to be looking towards. So let's do 90. Bring it out. Freeze it. Eye aim con. And then this guy is actually going to go, eventually it's going to go under the head controller, okay? All right. Now, you may be thinking, well, why didn't I do an offset group for the head controller? The only reason is because the head controller did not need to be put off at any odd angle that's not 90 degrees to like one direction. If I needed to have the head controller, facing down a little bit or facing up a little bit, then I probably would put it in an offset group. Mainly, I just want to try to keep the orientations for rotations essentially square with the shape. Okay. And then let's go ahead and do let's do one for the mouth. So let's do a flat shape. We'll do a 180-degree arc. And I'm going to go ahead and place that right on the jaw joint. Now, this is going to be the pivot. Which one of these is going to be the pivot? That one's going to be the pivot right there. So what I'm going to do is I need to go ahead and move this controller around. And then we're just going to move it in front of the mouth. So right about there. Okay. Now again, I'm going to put the pivot point right here. So it will move from the mouth, or from the actual place that the mouth is going to be moving. All right, it's going to freeze those transformations. Mouth con. All right. And then we'll do okay, so we'll do the tail. So that's going to be the tail base. Freeze that. I'm going to go and do since this kind of goes off at an angle, the tail controllers are probably going to be kind of angling down just a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate. And then this guy is going to, I'm just going to go snap him over. Just like that. Freeze transformations, Control G. So I'm grouping it to itself, centering the pivot. I'm going to use that group to just rotate it just a little bit. And that can also scale. Uniformly scale, by the way, don't scale in any one direction. If you scale in like a certain direction, like reshape the controller, make sure you freeze that transformation. Especially if you're freezing on a group, that is going to cause some major deformations whenever you rotate it. So we'll just go and do that. Duplicate. Do the next one. Control D. do the next one. Now you don't actually need to put a controller on the tip. Don't worry about that. It doesn't actually move. Okay. Scale that down just a little bit. Something like that. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and name all these. Tail, tip, con. Tail, mid, con. Tail. Con 1. I'm going to change this tail mid con 2. This will be tail base con. There we go. So tail mid con 1 base group, offset group, I mean. Tail mid con 2 offset group. Tail tip con offset group. Okay. Okay. So I think we got everything. All right, so we're gonna need to go and start kind of ordering these. So I'm gonna grab, we're just gonna do the tail controllers first. So tail tip offset con group, and this is gonna be basically ordered just like a FK chain that we've done before. We're just throwing in the groups in the middle of this, okay? So tail tip offset group needs to go under tail mid con 2. Tail mid con 2 offset group needs to go under tail mid con 1. Okay, just like that. Tail mid con 1 offset group needs to go under tail base con. Okay, just like that. And so those are all of our tail controllers. And so we can then go and rotate those. All right. Let's go to the head. Eye controller right here. That needs to go under the head controller. Okay. Mouth controller needs to go under the head controller. Head controller, that needs to go under the neck top controller. Okay, right here. So that needs to go under there. Neck top controller offset group is going to go under its parent, which is going to be neck base controller. Okay. Notice that there's no siblings, well, except for these two, but there's really no siblings going on here with these consecutive controllers. It's offset group, controller, offset group, controller, controller. Okay, it's just boom, 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 boom. All right. Neck base controller, offset group, this guy right here, is going to go under spine upper controller. Okay. Spine upper controller will go under mid. Mid will go under base. Base will go under root. Okay. So this is the root. And you'll see it's a clean grouping up through here. Okay. Looks like I missed. Okay. So I missed this one right here, spine base. So I'm going to put that under root. Mid needs to be under base, right? So that, I'm just going to middle mouse drag that under base. And you'll see how it just goes, boom, straight down. All right. And where do you think tail needs to go? It needs to go under the root. So we're going to go ahead and drop that under the root. So now the root has two children, tail base, spine base. And those have multiple children going down into the tail tip, this way out to the extremity. And this one has children go out to the extremity here. And those control all of these joints. All right. Okay. Awesome. So the root controller needs to go under the placer controller, okay? So this is going to be the same controller that the foot controller is on, okay? Notice that the foot controller is not, it needs to be independent of a root controller, all right? So it is not under the root. So we will find the placer controller. It's going to be right here. And we will put the root underneath it. So I'm going to grab the root, grab the place, and hit parent. Okay. You'll see we have under the placer, we have a we have placement con, we have the left foot, and then we have left knee, and then if the right foot was completed, it would be the right foot and the right knee, and then we have the root, and then we have everything under the root. Okay. And then of course under that, or this is all under the world con. So we can move stuff around. Okay. Now we need to actually start connecting things. All right. So right now, I'm going to go and take the root controller, and that is going to have a parent constraint on the root joint, okay? Because it needs to be able to move it as well as rotate it. So controller, joint, parent, maintain offset, add, okay? All right, so let's do tail. Now, this does not necessarily need to move it. So parent is not needed, not required. And orient would work just as well, but either one of them will be fine because we really needed to rotate the joint, but we could use translation as well too if we needed it. So either one of those work just fine. So we can do parent right here, parent child, constrain, parent child, constrain, parent child, constrain. Okay. And then here for the spine, again, parent child, constrain, parent child, constrain, parent child, constrain. Okay. Okay, so the neck base is going to go to the controller, the ribbon spine controller, and that is going to go to, again, a parent. The top joint here, the top controller here for the neck, that one will need to be a parent because we want to be able to take the head and like move it up and down, kind of like a giraffe or an ostrich. So I'm going to go and do parent. The head, we can do that as a parent. The jaw, we can do that as a parent. And then the eyeball, that needs to be an aim constraint. Okay, that one snapped a little bit. Did you see that? Probably did not have offset turned on. Nope. There we go. There we go. So that'll work. All right. Okay. So let's check this out. All right, move it up down. You see how it's moving the joints. Good. Okay, works well. Okay. Rotate. Looks good. Okay, looks good. And then we'll grab the root, move it up and down. What I'm looking for is if I move it down, does this leg stick with the root or does it stay on the ground? And it looks like it's staying on the ground, which is good. But if I grab the placer controller, pick it up, does everything move with it? Yes, which is good. So that's what I want. That's what I'm looking for. Okay. All right. Skinning. What do you skin? Okay. Basically, you're going to skin all the joints except for the follicle joints. Okay. Just keep it simple. Again, follicle joints do not need to be skinned to the base mesh. Follicle joints only get skinned to the ribbon spine, and that's it. Eyeball. Keep that simple. That only gets skinned to joint 15, which joint 15 is my base joint. Okay. Eye tip joint. Okay. So eyeball is going to get skinned to the eye base joint right here. All right. These guys, you know, unless you're doing the extra credit thing where you're going to be ribbing or adding extra joints and stuff and doing the ribbon spines for each of these, just honestly just skin these directly to the head joint, which is this one right here. Where you have a head tip joint, you can also just skin it entirely to the head tip joint. Just make it easier for you, okay? And that's pretty much it. If you have questions on skinning, I would take a look at the video on weight painting. Other than that, that should be it. Okay. If you have any questions, let me know.